24 years in charge, a day that we probably never thought was actually going to happen after multiple protests, so many failed transfers, failure to build upon what he initially built. Daniel Levy has finally left Tottenham Hotspur. Yes, of course, he's not fully left. He still has shares in the club, but in terms of making the decisions, running the club day to day, Daniel Levy is no longer involved with Tottenham Hotspur. First, we're going to get into the statements, what Spurs dropped. Obviously, I've been away a couple of days, so we've had a bit of time for this all to simmer. We've seen more things come out, and obviously we've seen a couple bids. Of course, we're going to talk about that towards the back end of the video. But first, we need to drop into the statement that dropped on Thursday from Tottenham Hotspur. And here it says, and I quote, Tottenham Hotspur announces that Daniel Levy has today stepped down from his role as executive chairman after nearly 25 years. Tottenham Hotspur has been transformed over the last quarter of a century. It has played in European competitions for the last 18 of 20 seasons, becoming one of the most recognised football clubs, consistently investing in its academy, players and facilities, including a new world-class stadium and a state-of-the-art training centre. The club has also competed regularly at the highest level, enjoying a number of fantastic on-field successes, including the most recent Europa League win. As part of its succession planning, the club has made a number of senior appointments in recent months. Vinay Venkatesan was hired as Chief Executive Officer, with Thomas Frank as our new men's head coach and Martin Ho as women's head coach. Peter Charrington joined the board and will step into the newly created role of non-executive chairman. This is all part of the club's ambition to ensure that it's set up to deliver long-term sporting success. Daniel Levy said on this, I'm incredibly proud of the work that I've done together with the executive team, with all of our employees. We have built this club into a global heavyweight, competing at the highest level. More than that, we've built a community. I was lucky enough to work with some of the greatest people in this sport, from the team at Lily White House and Hotspur Way to all the players and managers over the years. I wish to thank all the fans that have supported me over the years. It hasn't always been an easy journey, but significant progress has been made. I'll continue to support this club passionately. Peter Charrington, obviously the non-executive chairman, said, I'm very honoured to become non-executive chairman of this extraordinary club. And on behalf of the board, I would like to thank Daniel and his family for their commitment and loyalty to the club over so many years. This is a new era of leadership of the club on and off the pitch. I do recognise there's been a lot of change in recent months as we put in place new foundations. We are now fully focused on stability and empowering talented people across the club, led by Vinay and his executive change. I mean, where do we go from there? Because it's an absolute bombshell. As in, obviously, yes, when this dropped on Thursday, I was away as well at the time, so and I just seen the Spurs group chat going mental, and I'm seeing messages like he's gone, oh my god, he's finally gone, blah blah blah, and I'm thinking what? And then obviously you click onto the link and then you see it. You always got to check, because nowadays we get stung so much by AI and things like that. But when you check it and you saw the news, it's like, no way, this has actually happened. A lot of people said this out of the blue, and I'm not claiming to be in the know or anything, but I don't really think it was out of the blue too much, because if you go back to I started this channel, about 3-4 months ago. If you go back to my second video I think I made, it was talking about Daniel Levy stepping down. Obviously, there was a lot of talk over the summer about Spurs looking to get initial investment, that Daniel Levy's position at the club was likely to be coming towards an end. So I know obviously a lot of the outside supporters are looking at it as a real bombshell, but I think everyone obviously reads up on Spurs and follows Spurs, and I'm sure if you're clicking on this video, you're likely to be one of them. I think we did see this coming, but once again, it's one of them things, you'll believe it when you see it, because we know that Daniel Levy his fingerprints have been over this club, all over this club for a very long time. Obviously, I was very, very young when Daniel Levy took over as chairman, so I don't even actually remember a Spurs before him. Obviously, I know about the history of the club, of course, but in terms of my Spurs support in life, me growing up as a Spurs fan, all I've known is Daniel Levy. And yes, I'll admit, when he took over the club in 2001, obviously, yes, I'm admitting once again I'm young, so obviously I don't know the full ins and outs, but I know the Spurs were a mid table team. Of course, yes, we were known as a cup team previous to his appointment, and we did obviously win European trophies and stuff like that. But come on, we didn't win a league since what, 61, I believe. And when Daniel Levy took over this club, we were a mid-table team. Even thinking about the times where I was in school myself, Spurs weren't the greatest, and Daniel Levy has taken us to that next level. Yes, of course, built a world-class training ground, which it, I'm gonna say it is the best in the Premier League. I'd say we've got a world-class stadium as well. That's probably the best in the Premier League. Not even probably, it is the best in the Premier League. So all the infrastructure outside the club is absolutely spot on, and obviously Daniel Levy has a lot of. You got to give him the credit for that one as well. Obviously, I know fans don't like to do that, but we got to be honest with it. Everything that he's done off the field has been absolutely outstanding. However, this is a football club, and it doesn't matter what you do off the field because football is determined by what you do on the pitch. And I actually did see a tweet. So from 2001 to 2017, Daniel Levy was the best chairman in the Premier League and maybe world football. And I would probably agree with that because, as I said, he got us to that level where we were competing. Obviously, we started to compete in the Champions League, but as it says, 18 out of 20 seasons competing in Europe. So the fact he's taken us from a mid-table team to a team that expects to be in Europe is obviously something that's absolutely huge as well. If you look at it like that, you also got to look at certain things like we're considered one of the big six when. If you're talking about achievements wise, we're not really a big six club, but now we're one of the big six in the Premier League. And the Premier League is, of course, the biggest league in the world. So the fact that we're technically one of the top six teams in the what, obviously, I'm not saying we're the top six teams in the world, but you know what I'm saying. As in terms of the league, we're in the best league and we're in the top six of the best league. So we're in the top 10 of the richest clubs in the world. So what he's taken us to has been absolutely outstanding. But a lot of the decisions he's made, a lot of the things have held the club back, and well, it's been a bit long overdue to be honest, because maybe he should have gone a long time ago. But if you look at his role in terms of any sort of business as well, what person can be at the top of a business for nearly 25 years and achieved very little success and stay in a role like it? I'm pretty sure everyone watching this video works or has worked in their life. And could you imagine working for a company where the guy at the top he's not obviously making more than the players, but he's making a lot of money anyway. And the guy at the top is being rewarded for not really performing. Whereas we're seeing managers getting sacked to hear how many of I don't even know how many managers Daniel Levy's been through, but I would say 15, 20. Obviously, it's probably not 20 because it's not one every year, but I'd say it's definitely got to be around the 15 mark. And it seems like everyone loses their jobs. We've seen CEOs, sporting directors, directors of football, whatever it is. We've seen managers. We've seen loads of people losing their job. But the one consistent thing that's always stayed with Tottenham Hotspur in the last 24 years has been Daniel Levy. So you've always got to look at it and think, how comes he always gets to survive when everyone else takes the fall? And let's be honest, I think since we've been in our new stadium, we've had Champions League football twice, I believe. Obviously, of course, that season when we moved into the stadium, we were already in it, so I'm not counting that. The season after, obviously, because we got to the final that year, I believe the season after that season we finished third, so we got Champions League. I think the season under Conte, we got Champions League, and obviously this season now we got Champions League, but that is obviously through winning the Europa League. So the fact that we've now moved into this huge stadium to compete and challenge the top teams, and if anything, we've probably gone backwards, is not a great sign. When if you look at the profits of the club, we're making more money than ever before. So it's gone completely the wrong way. Obviously, yes, as I spoke about earlier in the video, it seems that this decision was sort of taken out of Daniel Levy's hands. Obviously, it did look like when it came out that maybe he'd stepped down, but it was more, I think he was pushed out the way. And that is because the Joe Lewis family, apparently a lot of them are Spurs fans. And obviously, seeing what's happening to the club, they want the best for the club. They want to challenge on all fronts, and they want to compete. And obviously, they all realize there is one thing that does hold us back, and of course that is Daniel Levy. Yes, I know obviously he always wants to get the best deal or wants to make the most money for the club, but sometimes, and in this day and age of modern day football, you can't be looking to turn over a profit, because the likes of, let's look at Liverpool. Yes, people want to say they made 200 million. They still spent, what, 450 million this summer? Arsenal spending money like no man's business. Man City spending ridiculous money. Chelsea, let's not even talk about them, but you know what they spend for money-wise. Manchester United, the list goes on. Even if you're looking at wages, clubs like Aston Villa, clubs like Newcastle, these clubs are starting to overtake us in the sort of wages they pay. And that should not be right, especially if you're considering us one of the big six. We should be paying the wages of the big six. And of course, we don't pay them wages because Daniel Levy has held such a headlock on this club because he wants to keep it so financially stable. So on the one hand, I can look at it. Yes, Daniel Levy has been an absolutely outstanding businessman for Spurs. But on the other hand, this is football. Yes, of course, I know Tottenham Hotspur is a business, but this is football. And if we win on the pitch, the money will flow through as well. So I'm looking forward to it, but at the same time, I'm a bit, because you don't know what's going to come next. Obviously, yes, Vinay Venkatesan has come in, but let's be honest, we don't know too much about him. Obviously, he had power at Arsenal, but did he have any power like this? I do not know. But one thing I do want to talk about before we do wrap this up is because over the last 24 hours, there's been news that a couple of bids have actually gone in since Daniel Levy step down, was pushed out, whatever you want to call it. And they've come in the likes of Amanda Staveley and one second, let me just pull it up for you. And it's like a Chinese group. Obviously, I don't want to just call them that because that sounds a bit bad. So let me pull up this statement. Sorry, it's a lot of statement reading today as well, so please bear with me, guys. Obviously, they're not the greatest things to read, but I do have to. The board of Tottenham Hotspur Limited, obviously I'm not going to read the brackets, but you can see it yourself, is aware of recent media speculation and confirms that its majority shareholder ENIC Sports Development Holding Limited has received and unequivocally rejected separate preliminary expressions of interest in relation to proposals to acquire the entire issued and to be issued shared capital of ENIC from PCP International Finance. And I believe that is Amanda Staveley. And of course, they owned, I think they owned a big majority of Newcastle United. And it's and a consortium of investors led by Dr. Roger Kennedy and Wing Fei NG through Firehawk Holdings Limited. As a consequence of ENIC's majority ownership interest in Tottenham Hotspur, were any offer made to acquire ENIC and complete, a mandatory offer would be required under Rule 9 of the Code of Acquire the shares to Tottenham Hotspur not already held by ENIC. Yeah, I'm not going to read the rest of it because it's all just business jargon. And to be honest, it just confuses me the more I read it myself. But just to explain what it does mean is that Tottenham Hotspur have received 2 bids to take over the ownership of the club. So obviously through ENIC and through ENIC and no, from Amanda Staveley and Dr. Roger Kennedy and Ring Fang. So like a consortium from China. So it's interesting that, because if you do read into this, now I want to show you this part because this is the part that stands out to me the most, is as a consequence of the majority ownership, Tottenham Hotspur made a complete mandatory would be required. So look, this part here. So were any offer to be made to acquire ENIC and complete a mandatory offer would be required under Rule 9. So to me, that looks like, yes, they have rejected bids because they have been informal bids. So they might have said, oh, well, we'll give you this much for it. And they would said, yep, no chance. But to me, that's not saying that we are not selling the club. Yes, of course, it says underneath the board and of the club of Tottenham Hotspur say that Tottenham Hotspur is not for sale. ENIC has no intention to accept any such offer to acquire its interest in the club. But any such offer, does that mean that they would accept that the offers were too low? Does that mean they would still accept offers? I really don't know, because it says under Rule 9. So maybe they're looking for a solid offer, and maybe they would consider selling the club. I don't know. You guys let me know as well, because am I reading too much into it, or what do you think about that? We really do not know. But however, I'm probably going to stop talking now, because these statements are just going to blow everyone's mind. But Spurs looks to be going in a different direction. Obviously, we heard Levy speaking about what, in May or whenever it was, May, June time, that he wanted to win it all. Was that before he knew he was leaving? Was that before? I don't know. I really don't know. I really don't know. You guys let me know what you think in the comments. But Daniel Levy leaving Tottenham Hotspur. What do you think comes next? Are we going to be on the roll, or are we going to be going backwards? Because we've seen it happen to a lot of clubs. Trust me, there's a lot of clubs. Look, Leicester have even won the Premier League and got relegated. And yes, whilst I don't think that Tottenham Hotspur will get relegated, you've seen financial crisis happen to a lot of clubs. And one thing that Daniel Levy guaranteed that Spurs, that we were never going to be any financial issues. So let's see what happens with Spurs. Let me know in the comments what you think is going to happen. Would you sell? Would you give the new lot a chance? Do you think Levy should have stayed as well? Because I know some people are actually, obviously there's a small minority of them, but I think some people do think that Levy should have stayed. So let me know, because it's also better the devil you know, because we could get in an owner. Look, for example, look at Man United. They hate the Glazers. They brought in Jim Radcliffe. They thought it was all going to change. And if anything, they hate Radcliffe as well. So sometimes it's better the devil you know, but don't know. Interesting time for Spurs, of course. We're going to be locked in all season, so of course we're going to be reacting to it all. We'll see how it plays out. Obviously, my guess is we're not really going to see anything huge until probably next summer, maybe January. But it's always a hard window anyway, so we'll see what happens. But let me know what you think in the comments. Please, if you're new to my channel and you're not subscribed, please smash that subscribe button. Smash like, and we'll be back for plenty more Spurs content. Peace and love.